This is Labor Day weekend. That means tomorrow is Labor Day. A day off for many, I know not everyone, but you've probably been thinking every time there's a 3-day weekend, what are we going to do? Or we like to think about, if we got a holiday coming up, or if we have vacation, what are we going to do on vacation? Even a weekend, a regular 2-day weekend. We love our leisure time, yet nobody asks us when they're first meeting us, well, what do you like to do to relax? Or what do you like to do in your leisure time? Instead, the first question, if you are of working age, is, so what do you do? Yeah, we're so tied in to what we do. Now, on the one hand, I struggle with that, because as a Christian, I really believe that God values us for who we are, not for what we do. And the part of who we are that God values is being created in the image of God. God loves us so much that even when we were far away from God, He came to save us. We were reconciled with God. And no respecter of persons is true of every human being. Yet we're so tied in what we do. But I think part of this comes from being created in the image of God. Because God is a God who creates. God is a God who acts, who does things. And so it makes sense, doesn't it, that being created in the image of God, we would also do things. And I think this is why sometimes you'll read about a lottery winner. They win the big jackpot and they keep working. They can afford just to quit their job, but they keep their jobs because this is just part of. Or maybe this is why a lot of times folks will retire and then struggle with retirement. They're just so used to doing. Well, there's a letter in the Bible that I think is going to be helpful for us to figure out where properly we ought to get our value from. And the letter, this is small, it's a short letter, it's called, well, your pronunciation may vary. I've always pronounced it Philemon. But the preferred pronunciation, I learned this online, is Philemon. And second up is Philemon. But I still like Philemon. Somebody who said, well, I'm from Mississippi, and that's how I learned it first service. Philemon. So, but you can take your pick how you pronounce it. It's a small book. And we're going to read it in its entirety today. It's 25 verses, but you can go home, and this week you can tell your friends, hey, we read an entire book of the Bible in my church on Sunday. I'm sure they'll be impressed, or not. In this book, there's 3 characters. There's Paul, the Apostle Paul, who writes the letter. And then there's Philemon, or Philemon, or Philemon, who is the recipient of the letter. And the subject of the letter is a man named Onesimus. Onesimus is a runaway slave, and he is a runaway slave who belongs to Philemon. Interestingly, it appears as you read the letter that Onesimus, the runaway slave, is the one carrying the letter back to his owner from whom he ran away. Now, things that you won't find in this letter, we will not find the reason why Philemon ran away. It doesn't say. There's no evidence that Philemon abused Onesimus, nor is there any evidence that or suggestion that Onesimus stole something from Philemon and ran away. So we don't know. Another thing you won't read in the letter, as much as we might hope it would be in there, this whole institution of slavery is just wrong. I mean, we know this as modern people, although it was accepted practice in the Roman Empire. You're not going to hear Paul denouncing slavery. Yet,